So you've poured your heart and soul into your business, but for some reason, your website is still not bringing in enough customers. Experts online would have you believe it's down to your SEO. You need to spend more money on Google Ads. You've probably heard something along the lines of you need to pay for more expensive backlinks. And all of this is true, but also irrelevant, because the reality is it's most likely down to the 7 deadly design mistakes you've implemented on your website. And unfortunately, this is a trend we're seeing across many small businesses and sectors. So if you're a business owner and you feel your website should be ranking higher on Google and bringing in more sales, then this is the video for you, because these 7 deadly design mistakes are destroying your business and you probably don't even know why. So let's kick things off with the first deadly design mistake. Google released a report a couple of years ago saying that 53% of visitors abandon a website because of just one simple reason. Think about that for just a second. More than half of the people will click off your website if you don't have this problem fixed. And we found a lot of businesses have this problem. So I'm going to ask you this, and you should know the answer as a business owner. How fast are your website pages loading, specifically on a mobile phone? And more on the reason why it's a mobile later in the video. Many small business owners tend to use websites and platforms like Wix because they're simple, they're easy to use, and they're relatively cost efficient. They then populate them with sexy videos, high resolution pictures, and big PDF menus. And this is what's destroying their website, because these platforms tend not to have the fastest loading times, especially when you overload them. So if you're going to use them, you definitely need to tone down the content, because it'll take a long time to load on people's devices. There's probably a whole video on this topic itself, but long story short, you're going to lose 53% of website visitors if your website takes more than 3 seconds to load any of its pages. And you have to remember that if someone clicks on your website then instantly clicks off, Google's not going to trust you, and it's going to de-rank your website as well. Realistically, you need to try and have your website pages loading in less than a second in all circumstances. Moving on to deadly design mistake number 2. You've probably heard the phrase, a picture paints 1,000 words. Well, from what I see, business owners are not understanding this when it comes to their websites. You must have a clear proposition front and center the second someone opens a page. Too many business owners have vague headlines on their websites like "we deliver excellence" or a picture of a random guy on a yacht, and finance companies and banks are prone for this. Whatever your business is, you have to make it instantly clear what you sell, what you offer, and why you are the best choice against your competitors. If you have a restaurant, you shouldn't have your logo front and center or even the storefront as the first image people see. And it's a big mistake within hospitality businesses. You should have a picture of your most mouth-watering dish front and center as the first thing on your website, because it ticks all 3 of those boxes. And speaking of ticking all the boxes, one of the biggest design mistakes we're seeing with websites is not optimizing for mobile phones correctly, if at all. If you're designing a website, I understand. It's easier to do it on an iPad or to do it on a MacBook or a laptop. But Google is telling you that they optimize for mobile phones in their ranking. So if your website isn't mobile friendly, or at least leaning towards mobile versions, it's not going to do very well on Google. People are going to click off, and you're back in that spiral of desperation trying to get customers. The reality is people are using mobile phones more, and desktops are becoming obsolete in terms of a search engine. So mobile optimization is definitely the way forward. The stats are showing now that 60% of all website traffic worldwide are coming from mobile phones. So why wouldn't you optimize for that? Many businesses have teeny tiny buttons on their mobile version of their website, or unoptimized pictures that just scroll on forever. Users are going to leave your website. You're not going to get sales, and you're definitely not going to rank on Google. Moving on to deadly design mistake number 4. And this is a common one, and we're going to have to break it into 2 parts. The first part is having a complicated navigation. If If you have too many tabs at the top of your website, contact us, about us, pictures, reviews, who we are, services, where we are, it's giving off a bad experience to the end user and they don't know where to actually click. And for God's sake, if you have a burger menu, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's this little thing here. If this list is longer than the list of Pamela Anderson's ex-husbands, then you have a deep problem. You really want to make your website as simple as possible. Studies have shown that users tend to only click 2 to 5 times on any website session, and 5 being a huge company like TripAdvisor or Booking.com. So you're more likely to be in the 2 or 3 range if you're good. So knowing that you only have 2 or 3 clicks to get a conversion, to get a sale, to get somebody to book a table or buy a product, don't waste your time having overcomplicated things on a menu or a burger menu, which brings me on to point 2 of this section, and it's a frustration we've all had for sure. Have you ever gone to a website and tried to find their pricing and it's hidden somewhere in the terms and conditions? It makes you feel like it's a scam, or they're trying to cover something up, or even worse, they're too expensive for you as somebody on the website. Have your pricing front and center. There's a thing called the 3-click rule, and that's something I would try and implement, and that is to never have less than 3 clicks from finding out what a price is for something and 3 clicks from booking something as a purchase. If you can get this down to 2 clicks, you've done something spectacular, and that's what you should be striving for. The 3 clicks is really a golden rule, and it's something you should really be implementing to your website, which brings us on to deadly design mistake number 5, and that is miscommunication and having weak call to actions. Generic text, small buttons buried somewhere within your website are one of the biggest killers when it comes to conversions. One of the first things people should see on your website, and basically at all times, is a book now button, a buy now button, or something within view at all times as they're scrolling where they can click and go straight to checkout. Remember the 3-click rule from earlier. This is an easy way to get that done. You need to make it super clear how a client can go from viewer to customer when they're visiting your website, which brings me perfectly on to deadly design mistake number 6. And I know you've experienced this as a customer, let alone as a business. You need to limit how much visual clutter is on your website and move away any distractions that you may have. Videos that are autoplaying with sound turned on is a massive distraction, and anything that's asking for an email address, join our newsletter before somebody's actually found out what you sell and what you do is, let's face it, just actually dumb. Why would they join a newsletter when they don't know what you do? Long story short is you can overwhelm your visitor, they leave, and again the spiral continues, your website doesn't rank and you don't make another conversion. And another thing on this, do not use stock photos. Just stop. Take high quality photos of the stuff you sell, ideally within your venue, and put them on your website. Social media badges, pop-ups, review widgets, all of these things are great and can help get somebody over the line for a conversion. But just remember, they're fighting for attraction and they're pulling your customers' eyes away from that big buy now or book now button on your website. Which brings me on to the final deadly mistake, and there's also a bonus one at the end of this video. So congratulations if you've stuck around. Number 7 on our deadly design mistakes is all about trust. If a stranger who's never heard of you before lands on your websites and you don't have any testimonials or reviews or nothing to show that you can deliver on your promise, they're not going to buy. It's that simple. Think about it. If you were a pizza restaurant and you didn't have a single picture of pizza within your website or a review saying how good you are, you wouldn't be buying from that business, would you? You need to have a simple proof of concept and a proof that you can deliver on your promise to a visitor when they instantly visit your website. This will make them comfortable with making a purchase with you. Remember, a visitor is just a visitor. They're not a customer yet. You need to quietly and gently push them down that 3-click rule to get them to become a customer, and you need to make them comfortable in that journey. Which brings me perfectly on to the bonus tip, and actually this is the most important thing and it covers everything we've spoke about so far. You need to optimize your website for the customer, not for your brand. So many website designers, so many experts, and definitely many business owners build their website to inflate their own ego. How good we are, how fantastic we are, how good our product is. They want it to look sexy, cool all the time online so they can be proud of it. I get it, but it's a huge mistake. You should be optimizing for the user experience rather than your own business's brand, which is contradicting to what many people are saying. I know, but you need to get a visitor on your website and get them to make a purchase as quick as possible and as simply as possible. There's a simple way you can do this, and it's something that I've done in the past, and that is take your mobile phone version of your website on the street and ask a complete stranger these 3 questions. What does this business website sell? Would you trust this business? And how would you improve this website? Seriously, this works, and it's an absolute game changer because a complete stranger's opinion is way better than somebody who has a bias to try and appease you. So let's say you've got all of these things we've talked about covered. What do you do next? Well, believe it or not, Google is changing its SEO model. The old one is already dead, and they're in the process of changing the game forever. So if you want to keep ranking on Google, you need to watch this video here to make sure your website is going to not only rank, but become the #1 on the first page.